Thank you, Donald, and good evening, everybody. Well, today, another bonkers Brexit conspiracy theory that I'm in the middle of. Apparently, I've made hundreds of millions on Brexit Day. I'll talk about that this evening. I'll talk a little bit about the upcoming football match between us and Belgium. It's kind of being called the Brexit local derby, and England fans told they must not chant pro-Brexit or sing pro-Brexit songs, or we could be fined or worse. But first, the really big story of the day, and this one has been running for years and years, and yup, it's the third runway at Heathrow Airport. Substantial opposition from local residents groups, which I guess is no surprise. One or two senior figures in the Conservative Party. One, Zach Goldsmith, who of course resigned and forced a by-election on the issue, which he lost. And I think the Foreign Secretary Boris Johnson might just have made the odd comment about Heathrow's third runway. But to help me through all of this as we head towards a vote at 10 o'clock tonight, and to give us a prediction of how it's going to go, is LBC's political editor, Theo Usherwood. Good evening, Theo.
Good evening, Nigel. The champagne corks will be popping in West London this evening. Heathrow are expecting to win this vote in the House of Commons at just after 10 p.m. They have the numbers. More Labour supporters than Conservative rebels. The political stars, when it comes to Heathrow, have finally aligned for the airport, and this vote tonight will, in effect, give the green light to build a third runway at Heathrow. Bulldozers out, spades in the ground around 2021. It will make it very difficult for opponents of the runway to challenge it. They can do it, it's not impossible. Very difficult to challenge it, very difficult to stop the third runway. Chris Grayling in the House of Commons this afternoon making the case that Britain needs a third runway at the airport.
I believe this is a project that is in the strategic interests of our nation. I believe it will unlock prosperity in all the regions of this country. I think it will set us fair for the post-Brexit world. I believe this is essential for all of our constituents, for the jobs it will create, for the connections it will bring. We have to deliver it, Mr Deputy Speaker, in a way that ultimately sweats every sinew to do the best we possibly can for the communities affected. My commitment to them is we will do that. We will ensure tight rules around the permissions that are granted. We will make sure that the commitments that have been made by the airport and by this government in the run-up to today's vote are kept and enshrined in law and delivered for the future.
Now, lots of talk about Conservative rebellions, but before we come on to those, there are some serious parliamentary contortions going on within the Labour Party. Len McCluskey lobbying Labour MPs, saying they must come out and vote.
Because they want jobs.
Because they want the jobs, absolutely.
Yep.
5,000 jobs immediately, many thousands more right across the country if that third runway is built. And of course, Jeremy Corbyn has told his MPs that the Labour Party policy is to oppose a third runway, but then he's offering them a free vote. Andy McDonald is the Shadow Transport Secretary.
The government hasn't done the work to support the development of this project. The government's case is riddled with gaps and fundamentally flawed. Yet again, this Secretary of State has made a complete shambles of a vital national project. Yet again, he is not putting the relevant facts before Parliament.
Forgive me, Theo, that tells me nothing.
Well, you wouldn't be alone. Basically, Labour set 4 tests, which they wanted the government to meet when it came to a third runway at Heathrow to do with air pollution, noise pollution, jobs, and they're claiming that the government haven't met those tests, therefore they need to oppose it. But Jeremy Corbyn would be embarrassed by a Labour rebellion from his own moderate MPs, very keen to see a third runway built, so therefore he's offered them a free vote. And that essentially is why tonight's vote is going to go the way of the airport. Now, one man who won't be taking part is the Foreign Secretary Boris Johnson. He's over in Afghanistan.
But I thought he was very opposed to this third runway.
Very opposed, so opposed that when he stood up in 2017 last year to take victory in Uxbridge as the new MP there, actually taking over from 2015, he said that he would lie in front of the bulldozers. This is what he told Nick Ferrari 3 years ago.
The truth is that Heathrow is just undeliverable. And the sooner we face that, the sooner our salvation.
And ultimately, would you fight the Conservative government over expansion of Heathrow?
Well, I will certainly oppose the expansion of Heathrow Airport, as indeed will every other MPs in West.
But would it be a resigning issue for you?
Well, as you know, I don't have a position to resign from.
But now, of course,
he does now, doesn't he? He's the Foreign Secretary.
but he is in Afghanistan. He therefore is abstaining. Therefore, he doesn't have to abide by collective responsibility, and therefore he can stay in post. Actually, he wrote to local councillors in his constituency in the last couple of days and said that resigning would make no difference. Therefore, there's no point to it, and so he doesn't see the point in doing so. But one man who did see the point in resigning was the now former International Trade Minister Greg Hands, who made this parting shot at the Foreign Secretary.
For me in particular, I made an unequivocal pledge at the 2017 general election. I've got them here in front of me. Greg will be voting against the proposal when it comes before Parliament, expected later this year. Greg is against Heathrow's third runway and will vote against it in Parliament. So this is not just for me a debate about Heathrow, important though that is. It's also a debate about being true to your word and to your election pledges.
It's about being true to your word and election pledges. Can't think who he was referring to. I'm sure those words would have been heard loud and clear in Kabul this evening.
Yeah. OK, and the government's going to win?
I reckon somewhere in the region 400 to 200.
Thank you. Theo Ashford, thank you very much indeed. Well, I have to say, folks, on this issue of the third runway, I've always taken the view that the traffic, particularly during the rush hours of morning and evening, around the whole Heathrow area are absolutely catastrophic. The journey times into central London are awful. I mean, getting from Heathrow to Canary Wharf is just a joke. Now, I know Crossrail is coming in, and that is going to make a difference. But I'm unconvinced that Heathrow's the right place to build a third runway. For my money, well, Gatwick's got plenty of room. Stansted's got loads of room. You've got Manston down in Kent, which is empty. But also, what about the north of England? Why does everything have to be centred in the south? Couldn't there be expansion at Manchester or somewhere else? I've always been opposed to the third runway at Heathrow, but this is not an issue that I'd die in a ditch for, and perhaps you, the LBC callers, can change my mind and tell me that I'm wrong. I get the argument about it being a hub airport. I get the argument about big international transcontinent travel, but I don't see why Heathrow does as many short-haul flights as it does. That's my position on it. Let me know what yours is by calling 0345 6060 973. You can text to 84850. You can tweet using the hashtag Farage and LBC at LBC. And, of course, you can watch us on Facebook Live and comment there too. Let's go to Alan in Bromyard in Herefordshire. Alan, good evening.
Good evening, Nigel.
So is a third runway at Heathrow the right thing for the country as a whole?
Definitely not.
OK.
Especially as I've got a much better idea.
Oh.
The choice has been, and the delays have been because Heathrow or Gatwick, neither of which are very good, lots of objections to both, and that's why there's been a lot of dithering. And when you're stuck between a rock and a hard place, you need a third solution. And my third way solution is Prestwick, which is southwest of Glasgow, on the coast. Now, Prestwick has an awful lot going for it, and I can give you a long list of advantages. For a start, it's already an international airport with a long runway. It has a microclimate, which means it's the least affected by bad weather of any airport in the UK.
Right. It's got good golf courses, Alan, too, hasn't it?
Yeah, that's right. So it's excellent for if you've got a couple of hours spare between changing flights, being in mind this is a hub airport, then you can play around a golf on the way to somewhere else.
Isn't the problem, Alan, that Prestwick's apart from Glasgow, which would be within... I mean, nowhere else is really within shouting distance, is it?
Well, it doesn't need to be, because it's not a destination airport. A hub isn't a destination.
No, fine. So we make that the hub airport. Rather like...
the hub airport, you take away some, but not all, of the international flights from Heathrow, which will free up space for destination flights to London at Heathrow, and hence you don't need to build a third runway.
I'm entertained. I'm entertained by the microclimate. Because the Open Championship golf used to be there back in the 19th century. So there's bags of golfing history there. I'm sure I've not been there, actually. No, I did. Actually, I flew in there once. I'm sure it's very beautiful in every way. But, Alan, I am unconvinced. Because even though when we talk about a hub airport, there are still people that join at that hub, aren't there, and may fly on through somewhere else.
Yeah, well, that's right.
And with the best will in the world, given, there are 65 million people living, officially anyway, living in the United Kingdom, but given that 30 million of them would be more than 300 miles away, doesn't quite work for me, Alan. It's a fun idea, but it doesn't quite work for me. But do you think it's a goer? Do you really believe it's a goer?
Well, I think it's certainly worth a study, especially as the alternatives are not very good. I mean, it being close but not too close to Glasgow, it's environmentally a much better bet. You won't have all the airport noise and pollution problems because the aircraft will be going over the sea. And it's on the Great Circle route to North America. In fact, planes from Heathrow going to North America fly over Glasgow.
They do. Yes, they do.
So if you look at the North Atlantic aviation route, it's ideally placed to make the first landfall from New York. And then you can fan out in all the short-haul flights.
Alan, you've put some great thought into it, and I've heard lots of theories. Personally, I thought Gatwick was a better idea. But you've made the argument for Prestwick and done it very well. Alan, thank you. Not going to happen, but thank you. Expanding Heathrow is illogical and will be billions over budget before completion. Then what, says Richard? Well, many of these projects are billions over completion. Heathrow Airport could be a good idea because it is one of Europe's biggest hubs. But Gatwick would be more practical with fewer people affected. Ryan, I rather agree with that. I definitely don't agree with the third runway. We have enough pollution on our hands as it is. Also, many, many houses have to come down. It's a disgusting idea. It's all about money, says Kathy. Well, Kathy, in many ways, all development, whether you're building motorways or new towns, inevitably, you're either going to lose housing or pretty countryside or whatever else it is. That, I'm afraid, is the price of progress. I don't see what's wrong with Manston. It has a connection to a fast train link and is already there, says Steve in Croydon. Steve, I am astonished that somewhere that is a mile away, an hour away by train now from central London, that's got one of the biggest runways in the world, where planes can take off and come in over the sea, is lying there dormant. I would have thought it would have been used for transport or for cheap holiday flights. Thus far it hasn't. You're listening to the Nigel Farage Show, exclusively on LBC, and it's now 7:15.
Nick Ferrari at breakfast every weekday morning from 7, only on LBC.
MPs decide whether to build a third runway at Heathrow Airport. James in Maidenhead.
West London hardly needs more jobs, does it? The places that need more jobs are places up north, not in West London.
Oh, please don't tell me we're going to build this in Sunderland.
Well, I don't know, Manchester.
I'm just going to tell you where some countries cite their main airports. For France, it's Paris. For the Netherlands, it's Amsterdam. I wonder if you're following me. Just let's build a third runway and get on with it.
Nick Ferrari at breakfast.
With The Times. Be not just informed, but well informed.
The last thing you need in London is more stuff. The London Storage Vaults are in an underground vault near Oxford Circus. It's self-storage that's convenient, climate-controlled and completely safe. Ideal for everything from sports equipment, stock, furniture or artwork, with free collection from Zones 1 and 2. There's 24/7 access and prices start from just £10 a week.
London Storage Vaults, the future of self-storage. Visit londonstoragevaults.com. Terms and conditions apply.
Clear a house, clear an office, clear a little bit, or clear loads of it. With Clearabee, getting rid of rubbish is quick, easy and affordable. Choose our man and van rubbish removal service and we'll come and clear almost any rubbish from almost anywhere. Because whatever you want rid of, there's a Clearabee man in a Clearabee van who can do it professionally and legally. Book now at clearabee.co.uk.
Clear rubbish easily. Clearabee.
Your data matters to the NHS. Information about your health and care helps us improve your individual care, plan your local services, and research new treatments. The strict rules about how this data can and cannot be used have been strengthened. We're committed to keeping your information safe and being clear about how it is used. You can choose whether your confidential patient information is used for research and planning. To find out more, search Your NHS Data Matters. This has been brought to you in association with the Information Commissioner's Office.
This is the sound of breakfast in bed. It's nice to feel valued, we're with you. So join British Gas Rewards today for loads of ways to feel valued, including free energy days. British Gas Rewards. Join today. Terms and conditions apply.
I can't pretend to be a great celebrity.
Whatever the size of your business, now you can take card payments square and fair. Get next business day payments as standard, with no monthly fees and free point-of-sale software. Learn more at square.com/fair. Authorised by the Financial Conduct Authority for the provision of payment services. Terms and fees at square.com/fair.
That works the thingamabob.
Pizza.
Red onions.
Oh, Prosecco, maybe.
Or wheat.
Rich foods. Maybe donuts.
It's hard to know exactly what triggers your IBS. Fortunately, Senecalm helps relieve IBS gas-related symptoms, including painful spasms and bloating.
Maybe Scotch eggs?
Try Senecalm for relief from IBS gas-related symptoms. Always read the instructions.
Exciting line-up here from the Lidl team. Budweiser, 4 cans, $3.99. Snacktastic tortilla chips, 69p. And Galero Premium Lager, 4 cans, $2.79. The first half looks like a mouth-watering prospect. Lidl, big on quality, little on price. Subject to availability, selected stores. Prices in Scotland and NI may vary.
The Nigel Farage Show on LBC.
Well, it looks like the endless protests are quite near an end, because tonight at 10 o'clock there'll be a vote in the House of Commons where we're told by a very big majority a third runway for Heathrow Airport will be approved and the work will start in a couple of years' time. Is it, I'm asking, the best thing for the country? And I've not always been convinced that Heathrow is the right option. I'd have thought Gatwick was easier. I'd have thought Manston's empty. I wonder whether maybe other regional airports should be expanded. Either way, folks, however we cut this, we're going to need a lot more airspace and facility over the course of the next few years. This growth in people using flights is not going to diminish. And I guess, in some ways, one of the Brexiteers' arguments is we want to go global. So we have to be able to provide those flights well across the rest of the world. And also, if we're able to really compete with Schiphol and places like that, it's worth, a lot. This, third runway, we're told, could produce in time 60,000 jobs, but it will mean 50 million more passengers a year. I'm not sure the M25 can cope with that. Hey, Nigel, China will build 136 new airports by 2025. That's according to the China Daily. And we mess about over one runway. Tony, we've taken a long, long time to even get where we are. I don't think it's right. But I can be convinced. I really can be convinced. Ian's a new caller from East Grinstead in West Sussex, which is fairly close to Gatwick, Ian, isn't it?
Yes, it is.
So are you pleased that it's Heathrow?
Yes, I am pleased that it's Heathrow. I'm just disappointed that it's the wrong Heathrow option. When the Airfields inquiry, probably, a year ago, was published, they published 2 final proposals, one of which is the one that they've plumped for, which is the entirely separate runway, requiring the destruction of Harmondsworth, Sipson, and so on, in the way of the village. The other was the Heathrow hub proposal, whereby the northern runway is lengthened and you have dual runway operations. Doesn't matter which one of those two you go ahead with, you're going to have to put the M25 in a tunnel. And the advantage of the Heathrow hub situation is that it disturbs, as I said, less people. It doesn't wipe out the villages. It still has eventually to have the M25 in a tunnel, but initially you can do a lot of the work still within the perimeter.
So why, Ian, you've clearly studied this very seriously. Why then was that particular option not chosen?
I have no idea.
All right, so Heathrow's the right place, but this is the wrong option, yeah?
The other options that you've raised, Manston, yes, that should be developed as initially a dedicated freight airport.
Yes.
And Gatwick, unfortunately, is strangled by the M23 and the M25. Just tonight, we've got one accident on the M25 has blocked the north of the M23. How else do you get to Gatwick?
Well, there's the Gatwick Express from London. It's really efficient and good.
When it's running, it is, yes. Apart from that, unless you live in Brighton, you can't get to Gatwick. Not in any numbers.
Oh, Ian, you're just saying this, Ian, because you live in East Grinstead near Gatwick.
Yeah, I know.
So you're a big NIMBY, Ian, aren't you?
No, not at all. It's just that Gatwick would not work because it is strangled by lack of ground access.
OK, well, I tell you what, I find here when I drive round Heathrow at rush hour, morning or evening, that's pretty strangled too, but hey. Neil is calling from Runway in Bulgaria. Neil, good evening.
Good evening, Nigel.
Good. So when you fly to the UK, do you fly into Heathrow?
I'll fly in maybe to Gatwick or wherever, maybe Luton.
Right.
This is my thing. We say the London hub. We try and define the airports as a hub. Each airport is a hub. But we've got like north, east, south and west. We've got Stansted, Manston, Gatwick and Heathrow, north, east, south and west. So why do they, with the connectivity, like that previous caller said, there's an accident tonight, get from Gatwick to Heathrow by road is either 40 minutes or 4 hours and 40 minutes. London to Gatwick to Stansted. It's ridiculous. They need to think a bit differently. We've got the train lines, fine, right? They should do something like Elon Musk is doing with an underground shuttle.
Yeah, but Neil, we're some way away from that being available on a commercial basis. I mean, look, we need more airport facility. I mean, what would you have opted for, Neil?
Well, I would go for connecting all the airports and seeing them all as a hub. But
see them all as a hub.
Extra thing at Manston.
Yeah,
seeing all of the airports as a hub. There's no other way to do it. It's ridiculous trying to get between airport to airport for a connection.
Right, but we need the Elon Musk tunnels or beam me up, Scotty, or whatever it is. Fine, Neil, I get the point. I'm not sure we're there quite yet. On the Manston point that a few of you have raised, Simon on Twitter says Manston is empty because it's in the middle of nowhere and no airlines want to use it. Yeah, Simon, it's interesting that nearly always when you get airport development, Lydd, a bit further down in Kent, is being expanded. The local population are vehemently opposed to it. The fascination with Manston is, there on Thanet, actually, there's a big, strong voice says, we want this developed, and yet it hasn't worked. It could be the economics, I don't know. Mike is a new caller from Margate. Oh, there we are. Margate, we've gone to Thanet. Mike, are you pro-Manston?
Hi, Nigel.
Hello.
It's a pleasure to speak to you. As a local guy, I've watched Manston come and go. I cannot believe that the sheer economics of moving all the freight from Heathrow and Gatwick to Manston. It's the biggest airport in the country, virtually.
Yep.
And how they want to release airspace or landing time at these airports in London, they won't need to build new runways. They take the freight out, put it in Manston.
Yep.
Manston's only an hour away. It's got 2 motorways either side of it. And they come in over the sea. They're 5 minutes over the buildings. And Manston, and it's countryside the other side when they take off.
Mike, my own view on Heathrow has been, if it's going to be a hub, make it a hub. But actually, a lot of the holiday traffic could go, the freight could go. Mike, I have never understood why the economics of Manston haven't worked. There must be something that I haven't yet sussed out. But, Mike, you make the point that I just made, which is here is an airport that could be developed with very strong local support, and yet it's not being done. Mike, I thank you very much indeed for your call. John says, I would like a new airport, but not in London. Somewhere more central, slightly more up north. That's got to mean Birmingham, John, hasn't it? I'm guessing. I think it probably does. Samuel feels quite strongly. A third runway at Heathrow will affect regional airports and mean fewer flights and worse connectivity from regional airports. You may be right, you may not. Edward says if a third runway at Heathrow will make the airline start treating us more like passengers and less like cargo, I'm all for it. Edward, that is not on the agenda, I promise you. We will continue to be treated like cargo, and the more of us that fly, the more the experience will be like that. That, of course, is after we've had to strip virtually naked to go through the metal detectors. Lynn says, I agree. Other parts of the country need the investment and the jobs. It's always London. The South East is already overdeveloped. Lynn, I want to sympathise with that, but the problem is London and the London environs, that's where the money is. That's where the majority of business people coming in from all over the world want to go. I wish it was different for lots and lots of reasons, but it simply isn't. Paul is calling from Dublin in Ireland. Paul, hello.
Hello, good evening, Nigel. It's very nice to be able to speak with you. I'm a great fan of yours, I should point out.
Well, you're very sweet. Now, your airport, Dublin, I've watched that over 30 years just grow and grow and grow. It's massive now, isn't it?
Yes. Well, I think that there's one very good reason why. They put it in the right place in the first place, out in flat North Dublin, a good 17 miles, I think, up from the city.
Yes.
So it's not in the way. There's room to expand, and there's nothing in the way if expansion is ever needed, which is why I want to come to the subject that I oppose most strongly, any enlargement of Heathrow Airport.
Okay.
It is already the world's most ill-located airport, and any attempt to enlarge it would involve utterly unacceptable destruction of such a huge tract of West London, including the towns of Sibson, Harlington, and the southern half of Harmondsworth. It would be devastated. The destruction would include the removal of 3 medieval churches and Harmondsworth Great Barn, which was built in 1564, which is the biggest, best preserved barn of its kind anywhere in the greater southeast of England.
Now, that barn, Paul, that barn could be picked up and moved, couldn't it? I mean, I know it costs money, but it could be kept together and moved.
It could be moved. Maybe you're right. Maybe
I mean, it could be. I mean, if something is of really vital heritage, then it could be moved. Paul, tell me why you feel so passionately about this.
I always feel passionate about the heritage. And
Right.
there seems to be nobody speaking in favour of the heritage nowadays. What's happened to Prince Charles? He's left it to me. I'm speaking for the heritage now. I'm speaking up for the heritage.
No, look, Paul, listen, I care about history and communities and all of these things too, and I do take your point. Paul, I mean, had you had this choice, and given that we need more airport capacity, where do you think we should have built this?
That beautiful, advanced, Japanese style, and I say Japanese style because you know what, Japan's the most advanced country in the world. It really is.
Yeah.
Japanese style. Thames Estuary.
Boris Island. That's
a world-beating design.
Yes.
British architects firm. World-beating design.
It was going to take 20 years to build, Paul, wasn't it?
Starting off with 4 runways originally, with the possibility of expanding it in the future through the century to 20 runways.
Well, Paul, I tell you what, I think we're going to get you and Boris together. Paul, I thank you for your call. Paul and Boris are going to build Boris Island. We could have 20 runways. The argument's all over. You're listening to the Nigel Farage Show, exclusively on LBC. It's 7:30 now and time for the news with Tim Humphrey.
MPs will vote later on whether to expand Heathrow, Europe's busiest airport, but Foreign Secretary Boris Johnson, who strongly opposes the plan, is on a trip to Afghanistan, so won't be there to vote. The firefighter who led the initial response at Grenfell Tower has told an inquiry he received no training on evacuating tall buildings with a stay-put policy. Its use has been criticised because it meant residents were told to remain in their flats instead of getting out. Prince William's arrived in Israel for the first official royal visit there. The Duke of Cambridge has already spent time in Jordan and will go to the occupied Palestinian territories later this week. LBC weather, after a sunny evening, most places will have another dry night. Some cloud in the Highlands, though, with lows ranging between 9 and 17 degrees.
LBC Travel, there are a number of problems on the M25. Anti-clockwise is queuing between junction 10 for the Wisley interchange and 6 for Godstone, with intermittent lane closures because of several problems this evening. Because of the M25 delays, the M23 is crawling northbound from junction 9 for Gatwick to the M25. Anti-clockwise is very slow between junction 25 for the A10 and 24 for Potters Bar after an accident, and the M4 is queuing into town from junction 3 for Hayes to the M25 after an accident. LBC Travel, I'm Charlotte Downs.
Follow the historic Royal Tour of the Middle East, all this week on LBC.
Sometimes you just fancy a restyle, a new bathroom, perhaps a new kitchen. But as with all stylish things, you'll want to make sure that they're fitted to perfection. That's where Trusted Trader are always on hand to help. TrustedTrader.com have lots of really lovely tradespeople who are vetted, reviewed and reliable, so you'll find the professional you need, including an expert who'll design and install that gorgeous new kitchen or bathroom.
Sponge cake, lemon cake, carrot cake, cupcakes, birthday cake, just basically cake. We love it. Whoever said you can't have your cake and eat it were just hopelessly unambitious and tragically misinformed. You can. And if you've got a smart meter, you could also save enough energy to bake 236 of them. Get your ovens on. We're having a bake-off. Save your energy for eating cake. Contact your energy supplier about getting your free smart meter.
Based on BEI's expected average annual savings of 2%, participating suppliers and eligible customers only. Savings possible by measuring energy usage and reducing wastage.
We're connected. We are the destination of award-winning apprenticeships. # We Are Woking for success. We are graduate opportunities with 1,000 new jobs as our town transforms together. We are the hub for innovation and we are open for business. So join the conversation at wearewoking.com.
For everyone who wants more from their Wi-Fi. For everyone who wants to binge-watch box sets all day long. For everyone who's been stung by unexpected broadband price hikes. TalkTalk has your back. Because our faster fibre comes with our promise of no mid-contract price rises and includes our all-new Wi-Fi hub. With our fastest, strongest, most reliable signal yet. All for just £25.50 a month for 18 months. Search TalkTalk Fibre. TalkTalk for everyone. £30 setup fee, contracts and conditions apply.
How do you think England are going to do this summer, Bob?
I don't know, John, but I've got a good feeling about Iceland. They're demonstrating an impressive 3-2-1 formation.
That's right. 3 Restaurante pizzas, 2 garlic breads, and a 1.5-liter bottle of Pepsi Max. All for only £5.
With a lineup like that, there's no way you can lose.
Fill your freezer and win at summer with Iceland.
Subject to availability. See in store for details.
The Nigel Farage Show on LBC.
The third runway at Heathrow Airport is coming. Parliament will approve it at 10 o'clock tonight by a big majority. I'm asking you whether it's in the best interest of the country, and you're coming in with floods of suggestions. Some think the Thames Estuary, some think Prestwick up in Scotland, others think Heathrow's right. Wow, I've never seen so many different opinions. I've always rather thought, wouldn't it be good if we could move some things up to Birmingham or further north? But the problem is, If it's expensive business travel, profitable travel that's coming into the country, London still is where the business is, and maybe ultimately it's unavoidable. But first, ever since Brexit happened, and then of course Donald Trump's election, those who support the establishment view have been desperately trying to find a reason it happened. Was it a Russian conspiracy? Was it that simply the people were lied to? And a new conspiracy theory has come out today that involves money. It is said by Bloomberg today that I was in possession, before the polls closed, of polling information. But despite the fact that I knew that, I said I thought we'd lose, to push up the price of sterling so that I could be involved in a massive short-selling operation. And when the results came out, hundreds of millions of pounds were made, and I presume many of them were made by me. Can I just say this? I'd spent 25 years fighting to get that referendum and desperately wanting to win that referendum. At midday that morning, a firm called Populus issued a poll that said Remain was 10 points ahead. I'd reached the end of my campaign. I'd physically and mentally reached the end of the road. And I sank into a deep depression during the course of that afternoon. And when the polls closed, convincing myself that we'd lose. I had lunch with Aaron Banks, who did his own poll, predicting 52-48 for Leave. I didn't believe him. Other pollers, even ones that I knew and respected, spoke to me after the results. Said, "Don't worry, Nigel. Don't think it's all lost. You'll be okay." There were a mass of opinions and polls coming in. I was preparing for the worst in the photo finish, mentally. And then I saw the Sunderland result, and I thought, it's going to be okay. And do you know what happened? Whatever I said about being, slightly negative at 10 o'clock that night, what happened to the price of sterling? Virtually nothing. It was always very, very high against the dollar because everybody thought that Remain was a certainty. After Sunderland, it fell like a stone. Chaps at Bloomberg, it's a wonderful little conspiracy theory. It's all a bit of fun, but it's a complete load of old tosh. OK. Back to Heathrow. Messages, suggestions, flooding in. Let Gatwick and Heathrow both have a new runway. Share the pollution, share the congestion, stop the wrangling. Well, do you know what? Actually, David, when we're halfway through building this runway at Heathrow, the debate will be, where do we build the next runway? Because we're going to need the capacity. More support for Manston. Manston should be a freight centre, close to Kent Ferry terminals. Yep, no, Tanya, I understand the argument, but so far Nobody seems to want to put the investment in. The problem is that Heathrow has the tube. Yep, David, I know there are problems with the underground, but Crossrail is going to make a difference in terms of getting across London, I'm led to believe. Miles says, why not build another runway near Birmingham or Coventry? It's near the population centre of the UK, so everybody has an average equal distance to travel. Do you know, actually, Miles, just south of Birmingham, there is some logic in that. Because that, you could drive there from the north of London, more quickly during rush hour than you can get round the M25 often, to Heathrow. So there is some logic, perhaps, that if it was somewhere just south of Birmingham, you could reach a large number of people could get there in an efficient time. But it looks like it's going to be Heathrow, whatever. Is it in the best interest of the country? Colin is a new caller from Wisbech in Cambridgeshire. Good evening, Colin.
Good evening. Regarding the airport, I think, frankly, this country is suffering, another chronic lack of ambition.
Okay.
The Boris Island idea sounds ridiculously expensive and sounds silly.
Yeah.
However, if you look at it as a road, joining the A12 in Essex to the M2 in Kent.
Yeah.
And tidal power, which I know you hate, but nevertheless it is reliable. Tidal power is reliable.
What's tidal power got to do with building an airport, Colin?
Because it's all, you don't split it up into little bits. You have the airport, you have the port, you have the tidal generation, you have the flood protection. It's all in one thing. You were saying about that.
And what about Colin?
You say,
Colin, hang on. There's a major problem here. You talk about tidal power. There's a major problem here. It's called the SS Montgomery. It's there in the Thames estuary. It went down.
I'm aware of it.
Right, and I'm told that if there was an accident or a problem and that exploded, there'd be a tidal wave go over Southend. Wouldn't we be adding to that risk?
That risk is going to be there anyway, because it's a truly vast sum of munitions that's in the Montgomery.
Yeah.
However, it's like you were saying that once you built one runway, it'll be time to consider building another runway. And I agree.
I do think that,
you're
yes.
Right.
Yes.
You're right, and the argument can start again. We'll spend another 20 years discussing things.
Yeah.
Understandably, because whole areas, swathes of towns and villages are going to be ruined.
Uh-huh.
If you put it into some sort of Boris Island, I'm sorry for using the term, but it's what people have come to know.
Colin, everyone listening to this will understand what you mean, yeah.
But it's if you split it, I know you're against some of the bits, but if you split it into the various bits, it all looks really expensive, because it is a very expensive, ambitious project. But you get flood protection, not just for the City of London, which is currently just about protected by Thames Barrier, because it's becoming less effective as the years go on.
Yep.
You get flood protection for the whole of Greater London, and you get the road network, the road from Essex to Kent, which will ease congestion on the motorways, and you possibly get a rail link, and you get flood protection, tidal power, wind power, the port.
Hang on, Colin.
And airport.
Yeah, and what about, if we're going to talk about the environment, which you have been, what about the fact that those marshes on either side of the Thames estuary, roughly where Boris Island would be, are one of the largest sites for migratory ducks and geese every winter? What happens to them?
There are ways around it. Again, they're not cheap ways. Also, don't think just of what Mr Johnson proposed. The general idea can be massaged in various ways.
Right.
For instance, a tidal barrier doesn't have to be a dam.
But bird strikes, Colin, bird strikes are one of the great risks, aren't they, for aeroplanes taking off and landing?
Which is why, of course, no one's ever built an airport out to sea. It's never been done, has it?
Well, I don't know about the Japanese airport and whether that is on the route of a major avian migration, but certainly the Thames estuary is. Colin, I do understand one thing you're saying. We may be lacking the vision.
We have a lack of ambition.
No, I understand that, and I do stand by my point where you and I agree that halfway through building this runway, we'll be asking where's the next one going to be, and we'll be behind the clock. Colin, I thank you. Steve says to me, let's have it at Biggin Hill, Nigel. Would suit you and me. Well, yeah, I'm not sure it would, really. Although I do find getting around to Heathrow in the busy traffic is a bit of a nightmare. Nigel, I agree with you. What we need is 2 airports, both with 24-hour operation, with local referendums to agree on this, one up in the north and one in the south. Well, this is the other point, isn't it? That actually, if we are going to be an effective international hub, we do actually need to be 24 hours. And this is one of the things I think Zach Goldsmith was thinking about when he resigned his Richmond seat and fought that by-election, is that once you build the third runway at Heathrow, once you say, this is it, this is our hub, we are going to compete with the best in the world, we're going global with Brexit, the problem is that actually you're going to have to go 24-hour. And I don't think the residents, millions of them around London, are going to be very happy with that, but that is inevitably where I think this will have to go. Ronald is a new caller from Peterborough in Cambridgeshire again. Good evening, Ronald.
Good evening, Nigel. I've just been a bit amused about these callers saying make Manston a freight airport.
Yeah.
Well, a lot of the freight comes in on passenger planes. So how does that one work out?
Well, passenger planes could land at Manston, couldn't they?
Of course they can. Yes, they can. But if major airlines probably want to go to Heathrow because that's where everything is at the moment. And the third runway is a politically caused issue because when the airport was first designed, back in the 40s, there was another runway north of the current 27 right or 28 right, or 9 left or 9 right, whatever you want to call it.
Right.
There was another runway there, but money dictates and it was stopped. So, I mean, I've seen plans for it, and actually there was another runway there.
Do you think, Ronald, do you think, given all the options, do you think Parliament voting tonight for the third runway is the logical thing for them to do?
Yes, I think it is.
You think it is? All right, Ronald, thank you very much indeed for that. In a moment, let's talk about the England fans. Let's talk about that amazing victory yesterday. Is football now coming home? But the next game, of course, is going to be on Thursday. It's going to be against Belgium. They've been playing pretty well, scoring quite a lot of goals too. It's going to be the Brexit derby. I would anticipate, between the fans of both sides, quite a lot of rivalry. I would expect it to be entertaining and amusing and friendly rivalry. But that might get the England fans into trouble with FIFA. But for now, you're listening to the Nigel Farage Show, exclusive at LBC, and it's now 7:45.
Coming up at 8 on LBC, Clive Bull.
Private landlords are having a damaging impact on home ownership, according to a Tory think tank report. Do you think buy-to-let owners have been skewing the property market?
Clive Bull on LBC.
Your data matters to the NHS. Information about your health and care helps us improve your individual care, plan your local services, and research new treatments. The strict rules about how this data can and cannot be used have been strengthened. We're committed to keeping your information safe and being clear about how it is used. You can choose whether your confidential patient information is used for research and planning. To find out more, search Your NHS Data Matters. This has been brought to you in association with the Information Commissioner's Office.
Ocean Credit Card.
If you're looking for a credit card with a credit limit of up to £1,500, go to checkocean.co.uk and see in seconds if you'll be accepted for an Ocean credit card before you apply. Checking won't affect your credit rating, so it's a no-brainer. Find out if it's a yes. Go now to checkocean.co.uk. 39.9% APR representative variable. Intelligent Lending Limited is a credit broker. Capital One is the exclusive lender.
Checkocean.co.uk.
Sometimes you just fancy a restyle, a new bathroom, perhaps a new kitchen. But as with all stylish things, you'll want to make sure that they're fitted to perfection. That's where Trusted Trader are always on hand to help. TrustedTrader.com have lots of really lovely tradespeople who are vetted, reviewed and reliable, so you'll find the professional you need, including an expert who'll design and install that gorgeous new kitchen or bathroom.
We're connected. We are the destination of award-winning apprenticeships. # We Are Woking for Success. We are graduate opportunities with 1,000 new jobs as our town transforms together. We are the hub for innovation and we are open for business. So join the conversation at wearewoking.com.
Block management? It's a doddle, isn't it? I mean, once you've got budget approval, all you need to do is your service charge invoices,
health and safety regulations paperwork, do the cleaning, the gardening, general maintenance, sort out site inspections, arrange contracts, insurance, emergency representation.
Yes, block management. Such a doddle.
Save time and money and cut down on the stress. For complete block management solutions, just call ABC Estates. ABC will take care of all your day-to-day management, leaving you as happy as Larry.
For complete block management solutions, see ABC lbcestates.co.uk or call 0800 888 6688.
That's a Swale Heating engineer setting off to help another customer. We have over 250 highly qualified engineers on hand 24 hours a day, 365 days a year to deal with your boiler installations and emergency breakdowns. Visit swaleheating.com. Rely on us to keep you warm.
The Nigel Farage Show on LBC. Call 0345 6060 973.
Well, the third runway at Heathrow may be very important, but somehow football's become really rather important in the course of the last couple of weeks. I can't remember, with England playing in the World Cup, a lower level of anticipation generally going into the World Cup. But now, suddenly, 2 games in, there's no question we're the best in the world by a mile. I know, there are experts in pubs up and down the country that will tell you that. But it was amazing to see England win yesterday, though, much as I enjoyed, the Kane hat-trick and all the rest of it. The thing I really enjoyed yesterday was when Panama scored their first ever goal in a World Cup, and they were 6-0 down, and the Panama fans went berserk, celebrating their first ever goal. Nice moment. They were just pleased to be there. The next game is against Belgium. They are a good side. They've been playing very well. It's going to be tough. There is going to be great rivalry between those two sides. Trouble is, FIFA have said that it would be wrong and a breach of their rules if anyone displayed insulting or political slogans in any form or uttered any insulting words or sounds. Well, we don't want the English football supporters to be insulting, and from what I can see of it thus far, they seem to have behaved very well, as indeed have our team, many of whom make great role models to younger people, and we weren't saying that about England footballers just a few short years ago. But come on, I mean, if we score goals against Belgium, they're going to be chanting Brexit, and if Belgium beat us, they're going to say we're a complete bunch of losers and they're pleased we're leaving. And for goodness sake, FIFA, let people have a bit of fun. The idea that the FA could be fined if people turn up with Brexit banners. Come on, there's a big difference between having a bit of fun and being genuinely insulting. And I hope the fans have a great, great evening. Wayne has no sympathy for people living near Gatwick. He says, look, if you live near the airport, you get the problems that go with it. The airport has been there for over 3 generations. Wayne, there is some truth in what you say. Oh, Luton! I'm getting Luton now. Luton would be a good option. Well, it's quite interesting because Luton, again, it's kind of in between London and Birmingham, and it is a place that a large number of people in this country, tens of millions, could reach in a relatively reasonable period of time. So, Luton, but hey, you've got to start again. Heathrow already has quite a lot there. What does Stephen in Mill Hill think of this dilemma? Good evening, Stephen.
Good evening, Nigel. Personally, I don't think that to expand Heathrow is the best idea. There's enough pollution and noise and disturbance in that area now.
Yes.
My thought would be to make Heathrow a premium airport and charge a bit more on passenger duty and reduce passenger duty elsewhere to offset the balance. Spend some money on infrastructure to get people to and from the airports, and I think people will get used to it. When I first went to Stansted many years ago, I think I was the only person there. But now it's busy. And in Luton, they made a Campari, the drink Campari.
Oh, yes.
A disparaging advert about Luton. So people get used to it.
Yeah, I mean, Stephen, the idea that Heathrow is there for, the businesswoman, the businessman who's travelling around the globe, and they're going to pay a premium for that. I haven't got a problem with that at all. But I'm being told by people who are experts that we genuinely need a third runway for us to be competitive as a hub airport up against Schiphol or whoever else it may be.
Well, I don't. I think they should spend money elsewhere, maybe to build a different airport, as you said about Manston, expand it or expand other airports. I just think you've got to take the pressure off central London. Too many planes flying across central London.
There are a lot. Yeah, and of course, Stephen, this proposal, we're told, will give an extra 50 million passengers a year. So roughly going from 80 million passengers a year to 130 million passengers a year. That's a lot more planes over London, Stephen. Stephen, I thank you. Nigel is calling from Haywards Heath. Good evening.
Hello, Nigel.
Good evening. So, come on, are you a fan of the third runway?
Yes, but I do have another suggestion.
Ah, right.
And my suggestion is Farnborough.
Farnborough?
Yes.
But that's Tiddly, Nigel, isn't it?
Farnborough nestles between the M3 and the M4.
Yeah.
There's plenty of ground around it for expansion. You could have a monorail direct from Farnborough into Heathrow, and probably another monorail from Farnborough down to Gatwick.
God, I mean,
yes, we don't have.
I mean, you're the new Isambard Kingdom Brunel, aren't you?
It's a different way of looking at it.
Yep.
You know, countries have the one big hub. Okay.
Yeah.
What we do is we spread our hub, but with world-breaking connections between those routes.
Right, OK, Nigel, another suggestion. I thank you for it. Mark says on Facebook, build Boris Island and move all the freighter and short-haul Euro flights. That will free up lots of runway space at Heathrow. Do you know, Mark, whichever way you cut this, I've always thought that if you moved the short-haul and a lot of the holiday traffic away from Heathrow, you might not need a third runway, or perhaps I have not really been getting with it. Perhaps we just have to build, because that's the world we're living in, and we're heading into Brexit Britain, and we're going global. That's what Brexiteers like me argued for, and maybe one of the consequences is we have to live with more aeroplanes. Glenn is calling from Diss in Norfolk. Good evening, Glenn.
Good evening, Nigel.
So, what do you think? What's the solution, Glenn? Come on.
Well, I'm a retired airline captain, and when I first went to Heathrow, flying with Cambrian Airways years ago, there were actually 4 runways at Heathrow already. And the left one, the northeast southwest runway, was used quite a long time, even through the VC-10 BOAC days, when there was strong crosswinds. So they had 3 runways in use then. However, at the moment, it's a hub airport.
Yep.
Keep a hub airport, the short haul and the long haul need to mix so people use it as a hub. That's the whole point. Therefore, at the moment, we're so long down the road that the third runway at Heathrow must take place to take up the slack for the next 10, 15, maybe 20 years. But you've mentioned Boris Island tonight, but nobody has mentioned the original long-term plan, which was called, I believe, Maplin Sands. That's when the Dutch come in with their huge dredgers and completely build a new land area and build an airport out in the Thames estuary, which was called Maplin Sands. You then, I presume, run Heathrow down, and everything is transferred to the new airport. And that is a 20-25-year plan that should be existing.
Glenn, this does ring a bell somewhere, Maplin Sands.
Yes, indeed.
Or was it Maplin's? Or was it Maplin's, Glenn?
Sorry, go on.
Was it Maplin's in Heidi High? I can't remember the programme. I think it was, actually.
No,
right. So Maplin Sands. So, yeah, we'd dredge, we'd build on sand, and that, I presume, and I'm not an engineer, but I presume, Glenn, that would be much cheaper than building an island on stilts out in the estuary.
Of course it would, absolutely. The Dutch are masters at building land areas by dredging up from the silt from the bottom of the sand. So that's what was suggested for Maplin Sands, and that, in the long term, has to be something we must consider very, very seriously. Last time we met, I was door-knocking for you down in Thanet.
Oh, right. Well done. Well, thank you, Glenn. Very good. Very good indeed. Glenn, Maplin Sands, I think actually, and you're right, this was suggested decades ago that it might be an option, and I wonder whether, perhaps, in terms of innovation, looking not to the next 10 years, but to the next 30 years, whether Glenn might just have a point. I thank you very much indeed. I've got time for one last caller, Alan, a new caller to this show who lives in Guildford. Alan, hello.
Hello, Nigel. Nice to speak to you.
Good to speak to you.
I don't usually disagree with you.
Right.
But I'm all for the actual third runway at Heathrow. Gatwick, one of your previous callers mentioned the surrounding areas, and
yes.
it can be just become gridlocked, and especially school runs and everything like that.
But Alan, come on, you live near Gatwick, so you don't want Gatwick, isn't that the truth of it?
No, it's nothing to do with that. I'm bang in the middle.
All right.
It doesn't bother me. I mean, you've got the noisy M25, which is at hum all the time anyway.
Yeah.
And the A3, so you get used to the noise pollution. But the reason I say Heathrow is because Heathrow's always been there, and Heathrow, it must be a big change for any airlines and everything like that to then go to another airport. If it's okay, if it's only freight only, fair enough. But people who live around Heathrow Airport, there'd be a lot of people making a lot of money because people will be renting out. The property prices will soar, which don't get demolished.
Well, they're high enough anyway, aren't they? I mean, difficult enough for first-time buyers to even make a start anyway, Alan. Alan,
they're going to rent them. They're going to rent them properties out at a high premium for people working it.
Yeah. Well, Alan, I tell you what, we've had this debate, but actually, I think, folks, for once we're talking about a done deal. I think this is going to happen. I think this third runway is going to get built. I think some of those villages are going to disappear. I think the noise pollution over London is going to get worse. I think the pressure for it to be a 24-hour airport will keep on coming. And long term, who knows? Maplin Sands, I don't know. Ian says on Twitter, presumably, if the England fans shout about how wonderful Brussels is, they will be rewarded by FIFA. I'm not so sure that's the case, Ian, but it's a fun idea. You've been listening to the Nigel Farage Show here on LBC. I'm back tomorrow night at 7. At 10 tonight, it's Ian Collins, but up next, it's Clive Bull.
Nigel, thank you. We will have more on Heathrow as MPs